which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the community housing fund plan timeline. Stephen, you want to walk us through this?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. As the board's aware, we're in the process of developing a community housing fund plan. Any monies from our recently created community housing fund cannot be used until said plan is adopted by the town board. However, the board has made it clear that while not necessary, the housing plan must be completed before the community housing fund referendum, so the public would have an idea of what the money could be used for. So I want to propose a timeline to accomplish that.
Thanks.
So I have the months of August and September. One item in August 21st. That's when the housing plan survey expires for public input.
It would be nice if that was a headline in the paper.
Yeah, we need to make that clear.
So people would get online and do that.
Then for the month of December, on September 1st, the housing plan is going to be presented to CHFAB by the consultants. And for those who are not in the know, CHFAB is the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board. On September 7th, the housing plan draft will be presented to the town board at the 3 o'clock work session with the consultants and the chair of CHFAB. On September 7th, we have a town board meeting thereafter. We will set the public hearing for the adoption of the plan for September 27th. On September 13th, town board will have a work session, a regularly scheduled work session to discuss the draft plan with the consultants and the chair of CHFAB. And then we have another work session before the 27th on September 20th. So if we need to discuss it again at that work session, we can. And then September 27th will be the public hearing on the community housing plan. And the consultants will be there to present as well as the chair of CHFAB.
Where's the survey available?
On the website.
Website?
Yeah.
Do we have copies out here, Christina? I thought we were gonna, and I think it's also hard copy here.
Okay, yeah.
I would bring one to anyone's house if they can't get here.
There's a calendar. Can you send it to the two papers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted the town board to weigh in if they think that's acceptable. And, you know, we have the referendums on for November on election day. So that gives, if we stick to this timeline, a good strong month for people to have to digest the housing plan in order to make an informed decision on the vote.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is water emergency. Suffolk County Water Authority, we read in the paper, has declared emergencies on the North and South Fork. We're a little different here because we don't have the hydrants they do, but we still want to be aware of it. I asked Joe Fenora to come on and speak a little bit about this. And we're going to also speak about water restrictions for wetlands. Joe?
Yeah, so some folks may have seen that Suffolk Water has distributed announcements declaring a stage 1 water emergency in the North and South Fork townships. That has similarly been communicated or will be communicated shortly to Suffolk County Water customers on Shelter Island. That would be the West Neck District and the Deering Harbor water system. The basis to this emergency declaration really revolves around excessive or unprecedented demand for water to irrigate and to use excessive amounts of water during these morning periods where Suffolk Water is struggling to deliver the water. So that infrastructure doesn't exist on Shelter Island, and more so our existing water districts don't allow for irrigation. So we are looking at a different scenario than what Suffolk Water is experiencing. We are monitoring the island's well levels through the U.S. Geological Survey. And while we do agree that the water levels in the aquifer are down, they are not down when we look at it in a historical context. And as of our latest readings, they've not hit necessarily the drought limits that we were looking at for our drought policy. So we acknowledge that we are in a bit of an unusually dry summer season, but our local water supply is not compromised yet on a significant scale. It is good measures to reduce water consumption, but unlike our neighboring communities, Shelter Island already has the benefit of very strict irrigation policy. And so we are not seeing that amount of water being used for irrigation like our neighboring communities. And like I said, I want to reiterate that the Suffolk Water declaration is largely due to their struggle in delivering the water, but they are seeing similar aquifer levels that we are, and their problem remains with the distribution side, not so much with the supply side. So I would put to the board that we'll be a few weeks away from our updated August aquifer readings, and that it's likely we see a continued drop in aquifer levels over the next coming weeks. So the recommendation for some water restrictions on the island may be forthcoming, maybe a prudent decision to make. But at this time, we're simply monitoring the situation closely, and we'll have more information in the coming weeks.
So Joe, as we monitor the wells going forward, if it stays dry, it gets to that point, we'll declare a state of emergency and enforce the drought restrictions. Is that correct?
Stage one, yeah,
Well, depending on,
depending on where we are.
yeah.
We first have to adopt the drought
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah, so our town code controls this. So it's section 82-12, which is emergency rules authorized. So you have the authority when drought emergency conditions exist to create rules and regulations. And then, the penalties for violating the rules and regulations is up to $1,000 fine and up to 5 days in jail. And each day is a separate violation.
But we do it by emergency declaration, or?
You have the authority, the inherent authority, pursuant to section 82-12. You don't have to declare a state of emergency. You exercise your authority under 82-12.
So we formally adopt that policy and our next,
I think it's on the agenda.
it's on the agenda.
16th.
It's on the 16th, right? Okay. All right.
And Joe, just to follow through a little bit more on what you said, we had talked to the Water Advisory Council, and we mentioned it at a work session that we're looking at revising the irrigation laws, looking into the grandfathered systems and also the ones with cisterns. And as you had given us in one of your notes, that the way we do the cistern program really isn't sustainable in the long run. We need to look at other options, possibly catching the water, from your runoff to put in the cisterns rather than have water trucked in, because reality is if Suffolk County Water is having trouble with their North and South Fork customers, and we're taking 8,000 gallons a pop 10 times a day, to fill our cisterns, something's not right there. So it's again, it's going to be a topic for the fall that we're going to really look into the irrigation system regulations and what we're going to do with them.
Just a couple of comments. Number one, thank God we moved to bring this drought restrictions back. The timing couldn't have been better. Could have been a month or two earlier. Could have been 2 or 3 years earlier, actually. So, but it's there. We'll adopt it next Tuesday. It's never too late. My second comment was, let's not wait for an emergency to declare something. I think most of the stuff in the initial is voluntary. So if it's voluntary and it becomes voluntary in a week or two, let's volunteer let's anticipate it's going to happen. Unless we see some major rainfall over the next couple of weeks, we can anticipate that we're going to be there. So as a preventative, let's be a little more proactive rather than reactive, and let's use good common sense and get out there and conserve water. That means, not washing your car and not putting sprinklers out and, not doing those kinds of things. It's, just to be proactive. But I have some comments on the next thing on the agenda, basically on more water conservation measures. So I'll wait for.
Joe, when do we expect to get the next well readings?
We have some wells that are now coming online with real-time data, but we don't get the full array of monitoring well data. We only get some of them on a monthly basis. So we're sort of piecing it together right now with what we have real-time and what we have on a monthly basis. But we're not due to get the August readings for at least another week or two.
Okay.
Joe, do you want to refresh the board's recollection on your proposed drought condition regulation? Not yours, but proposed by the WAC? Or do you want to wait till the work session before the next town board?
I don't have it handy in front of me, so it would be difficult to go through line by line. But largely the concept is that we would have a qualitative and quantitative approach to determine if we are in a drought condition on the island, and then we would work down a pre-established list of restrictions that vary from voluntary to mandatory based on the associated status.
Because it looks like there's 4 stages, right? Guarded, warning, emergency, and shelter island disaster. Yeah. And I just want to make it clear, because again, there are criminal penalties or fines. If you're in stage 1 guarded, there are no mandatory requirements, but once we rise to stage 2, and it's a combination of voluntary and mandatory, and that's when the irrigation section of the code will get triggered, where we can declare the emergency condition, and there would be liability on people that violate it, correct?
That's right. And it would be my recommendation that this policy be implemented for a sort of real-time status of the drought conditions. This gives us the opportunity between the engineering department and the Water Advisory Committee to make recommendations on a regular basis to the town board for these status changes. But also we would reserve the opportunity for an emergency declaration if the conditions or recommendations would stray from what's already predetermined here. So a good example of that would be how we handle cistern management when our neighboring communities where we draw that supply from have drought restrictions. An emergency declaration would give us the opportunity to develop a specific policy based on those specific conditions where perhaps we are implementing irrigation restrictions that mirror our neighboring communities, because that's where we source our water from for that aspect of water use. But that this policy would serve as the baseline or the permanently empowered policy for active drought status.
So when you look at the 4 stages, Stephen, guarded stage 1, almost all of them, if not all of them, are voluntary.
Yeah.
And stage 2, the warning stage, they're a mixture of mandatory and voluntary, about 50-50. And stage 3, an emergency, they are pretty much all mandatory with a couple of voluntary things put in there. And stage 4, obviously everything that's called disaster. Hopefully you never get to that stage, but obviously everything there is mandatory. So I'm just saying that, although we don't get, to get well readings a month apart, and hopefully that will change. So that, Joe, does that change where you can, as the system is upgraded, that you can get it, on a weekly or a daily basis?
It is, yeah. The updated contract we have with the USGS includes real-time monitoring of our wells, and they're actually installing those now. So as they come online, we're able to see that data more frequently. But still, there are quite a few that are on the monthly basis.
Right. So that's important for the public to know that hopefully, by next summer or in a matter of months, all the wells will be monitored on real time. And we won't be waiting for a month apart because a lot of things can happen in 4 weeks with no rain. You can lose a lot of water and end up, miscalculating, so to speak. I think if you get that data, on a daily basis, at least on a weekly basis, and you're monitoring this, more frequently, you can more accurately project what you need to do in anticipation of a drought.
Just for public service purposes, once we adopt the resolution, where is this going to be posted so the public can get it and it's readily accessible?
Well, that's, Christina's gonna be working on, I think a button, we're hoping on the main page of the website. That people will be able to click on and see where we're at and see the chart, I hope, and see where it's at, although that can be fine tuned too, with WAC, maybe within a week or two.
Yeah.
Probably after we pass it.
I think there's got to be a number of mechanisms that you try to get the word out, especially if you're finding people and talking about imprisonment. You want to make sure that Jim Reed has that posted on those mobile signs, that maybe homeowners associations, we have like in Silver Beach, you want 200 people notified and in a matter of minutes, we can notify 200 people in a matter of minutes.
Maybe.
And I know other homeowners associations could do the same thing in terms of getting the word out quickly. And also, I think there's.
Yeah, and I think we also have an email contact list of everybody who's in the irrigation
Yes.
protocol at the
Yeah.
building department. So that should be an automatic email if we go into any of these restrictions, because they're the ones who are going to be fined if they're using their irrigation. So social media, but also we have an email list of people who, have permits to irrigate. So those people need to be notified that
They
that
can't.
restrictions in place. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so to be continued. Next on the list, water restriction measures on new wetlands permit applications. We've had a couple of wetlands applications, and even with some of our special permits, we look at other ones that we've done in the past. How do we do it so we could put something together? We're going to try to make it a little more uniform for all wetlands applications.
Yeah. So I have a draft of some of the ones that we used from the Harris from several years ago of what we asked in terms of well pumps and tennis court and pool covers and a variety of other things, nitrogen reducing systems and energy certified, STAR certified and water sensitive certified appliances and fixtures and flow logic and, in case there's a leak. Also addresses irrigation systems. So what I would like to do is set up a mechanism where we take these 10 recommendations. Joe, the first place it would go is to you. All right. So Joe will then add to this list of other things that we can do in terms of developing a town policy on terms of wetlands applications to follow. So we don't have to make individual judgments on each and every one of these things. It will become standardized, will become the SOP for Shelter Island. The second thing would happen, if Joe has already done this, be sent out to the CAC, the planning board, and the WAC, those three committees for feedback. I would ask them, all three liaisons, to ask their chair people to put on the agenda for your next meeting and discuss each and every one of those measures and endorse the ones and add to the list as you see fit. The third part of that would be coming back to Joe. So we would gather all these things together from those three committees, bring it back to our town engineer. Town engineer would then work on them and then make the recommendation to the town board on a final list. And then the town board can sit and discuss it here at a Tuesday work session and bring the public involved and then hopefully adopt some of these measures. I didn't say that all of them would be adopted, but I think we are continuing to tighten the screw when it comes to water because this problem is just not going to go away. And it's better to be proactive. You look out west, you see Lake Mead, you see record lows. I mean, just down 80, 100 feet in a lake. I mean, it's global warming is happening. We need to conserve water. And obviously we need to standardize these measures so that we're not reacting to every cotton picking application. Some of these things just have to become policy, and so that everybody's in it, when you apply for an application that these things are givens, non-negotiable,
Yeah.
Okay, so, Jim had printed this up. We passed it around. Joe had made some comments. Again, a lot of it's going to have to go with what we're going to do long-term, not just for these applications. The one, I just read Joe's comment on cisterns. The cistern model is unsustainable and should not be relied on for the long-term water usage. What will islanders do when inevitably neighboring communities prevent export of water from their townships? Shelter Island Town should be moving towards banning irrigation before they allow expanded cistern usage and designing properties so that they are sustainable water users that don't rely on outside supply. And that goes back to catching the water for your own cistern use.
Right. And just another thing looking at this with the tennis courts, it's hard to have a soft court, like a permeable tennis court without irrigation. So in that case, I would say you need a hard court, but with perimeter catch base, like a French drain or something to capture the recharge. But I think a lot of these are good, but I still need to look at them more. There's good recommendations.
So we want to get a timeline here before we finalize these, before they go out to the 3 committees. Can it be done?
No, I think we want to get the input from them.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Let's send it to them all.
Yeah, well, I just mean in terms of adding any additions that we feel that we would like them to look at. Are we comfortable with the list that we have now?
Yeah, because they're going to add more. They're going
Right,
to,
okay.
We can always add more to.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
How is it getting distributed to the committees?
we can email it to them.
A week to the clerk.
Christina will make sure. Okay. All right. Anything else on that, Joe? You good? Okay. Okay. Next on the list is the Valentino Wetlands permit application. Yes. We close this hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
You're just taking this opportunity to discuss the application, see if there's any conditions you to impose, whether or not.
The CAC has the 3 recommendations that they issued July 11th, but we looked at this application months ago.
And Matt's revised drawing number 3 seems to reflect all 3. Well, except the move base. That's only when it gets replaced. That's not now. So those 2, the generator and the clean out seem to be outside the 100 now.
Yeah, he did make
Right.
those changes.
He made those changes.
And then he does have a note that when they do upgrade the AC unit in the future, they'll move it outside of the area.
Right.
But because they're not touching it right now, they're gonna keep it where it says.
Yeah.
And planning board.
Generator's been moved. That's part of planning board.
So planning board had a recommendation to move this one dry well outside of the 75-foot setback. But Matt hasn't done that in this. It's not necessarily sure where.
This is a new drywall that's going in?
Yeah, I believe so, unless it's an existing, but it's kind of hard.
It's just, it's proposed with it.
It's proposed within that 75,
Yeah.
75.
So I mean, it's not
So
there yet.
it's not there yet, so he needs to move it outside of that, or maybe just enlarge one of the other dry wells to take on that stormwater. So, I mean, that we can put in. So they also have, mostly for the pool, replace the current pool filter with a new cartridge filter, install a salt cell disinfection system for the pool, and then additional plantings to increase non-turf buffer at the water's edge. Reduce runoff as well. And for
Is that all included in the,
it's in the planning board report.
no, I mean, has Matt responded to it?
No, he doesn't have a planting. Oh, he does. 15-foot wide turf American beach grass. So yeah, he did include that in the application. So that's on here. And then
So what were the two pool related things, the pool filter and the salt cell disinfection.
right.
I don't know, like, what's the logic?
I believe it's less tap washing. Yeah, it's a system, so it's less water usage.
Mhm.
And then the salt cell, I believe, uses less chemical in a pool.
Yeah.
Have we done that before?
Yes.
Regulations?
I believe so. It's like when they ask for the automatic pool cover,
Mm,
it's kind of one of those standard
Gotcha.
sets of things that they request. So
Okay.
I've definitely seen it requested.
Mhm.
And then there's another one with the deck. They want to increase the gap between the boards and the decking. I don't know that they have a plan to redo the deck at this time. We could say in the future, if you redo the deck, you have to add a larger gap between the boards so that the water permeates down through the deck better.
We see that all the time. Is that something we could put in the code? Building code or something?
With the,
The
Spacing and
the spacing.
Well, there's the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code that dictates that,
I was gonna say,
we can,
standardize the.
yeah. And we can be stricter, but we'd have to get state authorization to do that.
Let's see what the building code says. Let me look at it.
Hey, anything else on this one?
nope.
Okay, that hearing was closed. Well, it's on the agenda for the next town board meeting. Okay, that's all we have on the agenda. We'll go around the table. Egg?
I have a outdoor assembly permit. So there's one for the. I'm sorry, my brain is short circuiting today. For the cricket match at Island Boatyard.
Right.
So that is going to be on the 20th, and I have a representative from the Ambulance Foundation coming to present on the 16th at the work session. They're just going to give us a rundown on what it is.
What's the date? I'm sorry.
August 20th, 8:20, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Pretty much the annual fundraiser for the foundation.
Right. So they have the cricket match that happens in the field. And then up at the shipwreck, there's going to be the Hoodoo Loungers later with food from the shipwreck, all to support the ambulance. So it's kind of an annual event for them. Nothing's really changing from previous years. All the parking happens on the boatyard property. And the music, they say, will be done by 10 o'clock. And so really what they're requesting is a noise exemption.
Right. Mhm.
So they're going to come next week and discuss it with us before the event on the 20th. So just wanted to put that out there that
Good.
that's coming up.
It'll be discussed and we will do it at the town board meeting, but we'll have the resolution time.
Right.
So there won't be any mad rush.
But it's essentially the same event that they've been doing,
Yeah.
which is tons of fun. So, yeah.
They've been doing at least 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just got another application, but it's not requesting any town services or noise exemption. So it doesn't really qualify for a permit. So I'll just
So
talk to the homeowner.
That goes to you and the chief and all.
Dottie.
Dottie, okay. Mhm.
So we're just kind of vetting them to see if they
Yeah.
can qualify, and then if they qualify, we bring. So that is what I have. There are a few things that I kind of want to maybe work on for the next meeting, but I want to go over the wetlands application process one more time and make sure we have it solid, because town clerk's getting applications, building department's getting applications. I want to just kind of nail down the process, make sure it's moving streamlined. I'm meeting with the building department and town clerk to nail it all down and then update the website with the updated forms and the process so that it's moving smoothly. And then there was another one I was going to do. I think it's just the application for wetlands has some outdated information it requests, things like that. So we were going to clean up the application itself. So then I'll bring it to you guys to look at. But that's really what I've been working on.
Okay. Jim?
Yes, comments on the passing of Tim Hogue. On Monday, August 1st, our good friend and former mayor of Deering Harbor, the president of the Shelter Island Association, passed away after a year-long battle with cancer. Tim was a well-respected, kind, generous man who cared deeply about his community, his family, and his friends. Personally, it was a privilege to have served with him as his vice president of the Shelter Island Association prior to my being elected to the Shelter Island Town Board. Tim was the kind of leader who sought to learn about the issues from both sides of the table. But in the final analysis, Tim's decisions were always based upon one thing: what was good for Shelter Island. Tim was always a gentleman. The most common response that I heard from my fellow islanders was, he was just a very nice man. The passing of Tim Hogue is big loss to his family, to his friends, and to the Shelter Island community. God bless you, Tim, and our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. And we mean that from the bottom of our hearts. Can't say enough nice things about Tim. Just like I said, a gentleman. Second thing I have is keeping up with vaccinations and boosters, COVID update. I know we haven't done a COVID update in a while, but after 2.5 years of COVID, most people are exhausted. But health officials are urging all of us to stay current with our vaccinations and boosters. This time, as the latest Omicron subvariant strand BA.5 has become the dominant strain in the United States. This has been called the worst version of the virus. It accounts for more than 85% of the cases of COVID-19, with more than 41% of U.S. counties experiencing a high COVID-19 community level, according to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. The concern is that many Americans are letting down their guard, especially when it comes to restrictions and mandates such as masking. Only 32% of people 50 and older, only 32% of people 50 and older who are eligible for a second booster have received that extra booster. These boosters still protect against severe complications, including hospitalizations and death. If we don't want to return to square one, and I don't think there's anybody that wants to return to square one, where we were 2.5 years ago, as we did back in 2020, let's get vaccinated and boosted. It's both an individual and a community responsibility. We owe it to our neighbors and fellow residents to protect our community. I don't mean that to be, put out as kind of a lecture. It's an appeal to people to please think about it. These vaccinations, these boosters do work, and God knows we don't want to go back from starting from scratch again. Thank you. Deer and Tick Committee met last week on Wednesday, August 3rd. The role, Jim Bevilacqua, who's the chairman of that committee, talked about the advisory role of the Deer and Tick Committee. He talked about the fact that Deer and Tick Committee is just an advisory committee, and it gave a brief history of the committee with the town board. Note that we've been very supportive of the committee's recommendations. And number 3, development of the annual committee budget with the assistance and guidance of Bo Payne and Chief Reed. And actually, it's part of the police budget, as he explained to the committee. And Chief Reed and Bo do a nice job putting those recommendations together for the town board. The report from Bo Payne: reimbursement for the TNC Mashamek piece of the flyover. Amber, 6,300 to 6,500. Wasn't sure, but somewhere in that vicinity. So of that flyover fee, this is the first time. This is the second year that we had the flyover. But it's the first time that the TNC has reimbursed the town because we fly over all parts of the island. And we're hoping that they rebudget that, in the coming years. Number two, $60,000 of the 2022 budget line was for deer management. Approximately $42,000 has been spent in January, February, and March. That leaves us $18,000 remaining for October, November, December. So, well, that doesn't sound like enough for those 3 months. The fact of the matter is, though, that most of our monies are used in February and March of that $60,000 because of the NUCO program. We rely very heavily on volunteers in October, November, December who literally do that job for nothing. So the amount that we spend in the first 3 months mostly is for butchering purposes. And as I'm talking about butchering, the program has worked out extremely well. We have a couple of people that do this full time, in terms of butchering the deer. As everybody knows, the donated meat, that venison goes into the recycling center and is donated to the public and to food banks. Number four, there was a lot of discussion concerning private properties that have not allowed hunting on their properties. I stated that I would like to see more of a concerted effort to get some of these property owners to grant permission for hunting, stating that this should be an island-wide cooperative effort to help lower deer density level in order to meet the goals established by the committee and adopted by the town board and the deer management program. And obviously it does. The deer know where they're safe. And that flyover shows us where the deer congregate. And a lot of times the deer do congregate on areas that we cannot hunt. So I'm asking people, we can tailor hunting a day a week, 2 days a week. You can pick the days. We don't have to close the properties down for 7 days a week. We can do it in selected months. You want to go horseback riding in the fall, which is a great time. Don't allow hunting then. But then maybe think about it for February. Think about it for March, for 4 weeks. We can concentrate on that area and then lower the deer density level in that area. The 2023 budget is being prepared by the committee as we speak. They feel that it's going to be, Mr. Supervisor, very much a replicate of 2022. Discussions about the flyover for 2023, they took the vote. It was unanimous by the committee that they were supporting a flyover for the following year. They thought, the chairman stated, you can't manage what you can't measure. He urged the town board to support this request if financially feasible. Need to collect data and track trends in our year plan. If they were going to stop, and skip a year, it would be 2024. They just feel that this coming year is going to be very important to see the trend after 3 years. The Green Up Expo.
Jim, before you move on to that, with the flyover, was Bo going to approach the other towns or Jim or?
Yeah, so Jerry brought that up and I announced it at the East End Supervisors meeting, which Jerry was nice enough to invite me to. And I had a captive audience there, nothing better than a captive audience, right? So I did spill the beans right there and say, listen, this works. And I tried to recruit some other towns like North Haven and different smaller communities, some of the communities on the North Fork to participate in the flyover with the idea that it would lower the cost. Remember, the aircraft comes in from out of state. And if we can bring that aircraft in, instead of just doing one flyover in Eastern Long Island, we can do 4 or 5 flyovers. It would cut our expenses down significantly. And why I say significantly, $5,000 or so. It would be a shared thing amongst the East End community. So Bo is following up with that with the other East End people. The Green Expo doc is going to be there with Julia Weissenberg, who does a great job with the public education. While we're on education subcommittee, Julia has put a program on. She's putting a program on in the library on Thursday, September 15th at 6 p.m. It's aimed at teaching and recruiting new bow hunters to replace the older folks who no longer do bow hunting here on Shelter Island. The recreational bow hunters play a vital role in helping us manage the deer herd on the island. I gave a liaison report, which there's nothing new there. And on the new business, Dr. Campbell mentioned his colleague at Cornell, Dr. Curtis, who is a deer biologist and is considered as an expert in deer management and other related topics. Bo had a very high regard for Dr. Curtis. The committee will make use of his knowledge and expertise. So that was the end of that. I did forward our 3 top plans to the PEP. I actually forwarded all of them, but I highlighted the 3 that we're looking for them to work on. I would like to announce that I've been working with Jerry on this. It looks as if a tentative date for the dedication of the town clerk's office is going to be Saturday, October 22nd. I've been provided a list of speakers by Dot. So the speakers are all spoken for. We are developing a program for the ceremony. The ceremony will be held hopefully outdoors on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I think we're shooting for around 2:00 on that day alongside the community center. There will be a picture plaque taken, which will be proudly hung outside the town clerk's office. We'll have the unveiling of the plaque. We anticipate a minimum of 150 to 200 attendees, if not more. This is why we want to keep the program outdoors if at all possible. I've talked to Jerry about filming the ceremony and putting it on channel 22 for those people that are out of town or couldn't see it. I think it's something that we are taking a lady who's dedicated 60 years of her life or better to this town. And she's thrilled about it. As most of you know, she's been nursing a little bit of sickness in the last couple of weeks, but hopefully she'll be back to work shortly. I told Amber that she feels so good about the job that you got done. And I wanted to say that publicly, that she really does appreciate that. Sharon has been with her from the day that she fell and was rushed to the hospital. So Sharon has been with her for the last 3 weeks, and she'll be with her a couple of weeks longer until Dot is up, has her strength back, and will come back to work a little bit at a time. But the date is October 22nd. A lot of things are falling into place very quickly. It's a big, huge event. Just praying for nice weather. If we don't have nice weather, we'll have a plan B, someplace to go inside, whether it be the school auditorium or the community center itself. We will have a plan B available. Spoke to Cliff Clark about the.
Something else?
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
Like just on that one, it's kind of out of left field, but we've discussed it among ourselves. But we're dedicating the town clerk's office to Dorothy. So really, that's the first time it's been out. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that's what we're doing. You know, we dedicated the fitness center to Garth Gripping, and we feel we'd like to do this to Dorothy for recognition of all she's done for the town.
Yeah. And I think the comment was by the town board. I'm glad Jerry stopped there for a second. You know, the shame of it all with Garth was we waited a little bit too long. And Garth physically wasn't present, even though hopefully spiritually he was present, but his family was present. And it was a great turnout. And it was a nice thing to do. And I've got a lot of nice feedback. And this is something that we can do for Dottie, for her to be present for. So this is what's kind of urged us to move forward with this. And, you know, she's just such a deserving person that the timing could not be better. So we're 100% behind this. The new USGS monitoring device down at the South Ferry has been all installed. I sent you pictures of all of it. It is not up and running yet, but it should be momentarily.
And that's for the tides, right?
And that's for the tides and a bunch of other things that it monitors there.
Tides, water temperature.
Water temperatures and a whole bunch of other things. It's one of many that are located throughout the area. And the other thing I would like to announce while we have people here is very important. Last year, as you remember, the end of August, we had our first International Overdose Awareness Day sponsored by the Shelter Island Health and Alliance group of people. We had it at Fisk Field. We had it candles, Amber being there and Jerry and a bunch of other people. You know, we had about 60, 65 people there for that ceremony. The only thing we're going to do different is we're not going to have to drip candles because I don't want to have to go there the next day and spray for hours the wax off the basketball courts. So we're going to go with other than drip candles. We're going with something else. Wednesday, August 31st. And we have a list of speakers. We're probably shooting for a 6 or 7 o'clock start. I think last year we started around 6:30 or 7, but I'll get you a definitive time on that. It's been hot, so a little late. And it's only the ceremony, as best I remember, was exactly about 59 minutes. It was under an hour. So if we even start at 7 o'clock, we'd be finished at 8 and everybody would, be able to leave. It's the second annual International Overdose Drug Awareness Day. And the reason why I think what's the drug epidemic on the eastern end of Long Island, throughout Long Island, and throughout New York State, throughout the nation, is not over by a long shot. And we want people once a year to be able to think about that, and we want to improve education, prevention programs, support programs for people that need it, and encourage people that are faced with the reality of drug issues to seek help. There's help out there. Our goal is to prevent. It's very simple. Prevent drug overdose. It's that simple. It's a human life that is lost, and some of these people that have been lost are dear, dear friends of all of us. They've been good people, and it's it's just something that if you think it can't happen to you, get your head in the sand. So it's an epidemic. We're going to try to the best of our ability. I've contacted Dr. Dozier about the use of this field. I've already coordinated with Chief Reed about that particular ceremony, and so I think we're in good shape. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Amber?
I just have a couple of, event announcements. Tonight, the Lions Club is hosting the 2022 Cornhole Invitational Tournament. There's no more room for signing up to participate, but you can be a spectator, and the Lions Club provides a lot of funding for various town, not Shelter Island town government events, but public events.
And needs.
Yes, that's a better, needs. And then the other one is.
That's rain or shine now, because I just looked at the forecast with this line of thunder showers. That it's a thin line, so that if we get them, we may get them, but they could be brief. But it is a rain or shine event.
No, it's canceled
If it's,
If it's
raining, it's just
If it's-
canceled.
it's just canceled?
if it's
Okay,
rained out,
okay.
then,
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully if we get those line of thunder showers.
It'll be
After or before.
Right,
All right.
before 5 or
Especially
8.
obviously with lightning involved, so.
Yes. And then the other thing is that tomorrow, sponsored by the Recreation Department, is the Wednesday by the Water at Wades Beach, music by the Peconic County Ramblers. That's from 4:30 to 7:30 at Wades Beach. There will be a food truck relocated back down to Wades Beach from Crescent Beach for food purchases, but the event of music itself is free. And then just also, generally there is beach sticker parking until 5 p.m. at Wades Beach, but they will stop enforcing around 4 o'clock so that people don't have to purchase a beach sticker for $25 for a free event. So that's all that I have.
That's it? Okay.
Oh.
BJ?
This morning was Taylor's Island. Hardworking committee. They're really hands-on out there at Taylor's Island. There were a couple of sort of surprising events. Somebody was staying over and someone else showed up at the dock to dock for the evening, sort of upsetting the person staying there. But anyway, I think that it was a firm discussion today on procedures going forward should that happen.
Does that happen?
Bad happened. It was just a icky feeling, I think.
We'll tie up there overnight.
I think it has, the person who was staying that evening tied their own boat up. And I think other people have stayed overnight on a boat at the dock there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly residents. I mean, it's not really a known thing, it's not there out there in the boating community, but just that, it's changing a little bit here.
So they're going to try to address it?
Yeah, they sort of have a procedure now of, what should happen if something should happen in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
As this happened. So there was that. And then just the constant maintenance out there. It is a pretty exposed place. An update that they had a wedding there. It went well. Good sized wedding. We will have porta potties in the future.
It rained a little bit. It just.
It did, right? But I think
I
that.
saw Tom, he said it was great.
But yeah, rain on your wedding day, it's a good thing, right?
Good thing.
I also wanted to mention that on the 26th, Sailor's Island's fundraiser. They used to do the lobster bake. They haven't done that for a couple of years.
To the 13th.
No, they changed it to 26. Yeah, I know. It was the 13th. I'm pretty sure I got that right.
Okay, just checking, because
Yeah, Friday at 5 PM. And that's at the Wine Garden at the corner across from IGA. So that's them. It's from 5 to 7, that the fundraiser. There was a WQI meeting last Thursday. Presentation by Joe seeking funds to help with the PO Lombardo study for the rest of the sort of like last mile on getting the wastewater treatment plant designed.
So how does that work? We apply?
We applied. He did a regular sort of application. 2 members were missing, so chairman of the committee really wanted them to be present. So so they all have the Joe's presentation, I believe. And I think they've rescheduled a meeting for Thursday, the 18th, not rescheduled, scheduled a special meeting for Thursday, the 18th to discuss this among themselves. And in the meantime, we have on the 16th, town board meeting to set the public hearing for this
right.
idea, which, okay, again, we can always cancel that, but it's nice to have that in the pipeline pending WQI's input. And then on Saturday, there was a meeting, the Chafab had another housing meeting with our stations and all that in the lovely air-conditioned space of the Presbyterian Church. I could have stayed there all day. Anyway, so it wasn't as well attended as the first meeting, I must say. But as Jim Colligan said, Saturday, August, 3 p.m. is not a great time. But, I think we were hoping to get just a broad section, a cross section of people. And that's a time when summer residents are here and our year-rounders are not working, perhaps, all of that. But that being said, still out there because we have until August 22nd to fill out the survey. And that's the key part here. That's the public input is via the survey. Key. What? 21st. I thought, yeah, okay.
Yeah, on that one thing on the Saturdays thing, Jerry was there, I was there filling in and
BJ in May.
and BJ and although we didn't have a lot of people, feedback was constructive. I found people coming in and leaving in a different tone. So I listened, which is good for me. And I took a page of notes, which I do, and I shared those notes with some of you. And I shared them with Elizabeth Hanley this morning as she's departing for Scotland today, for a week, 2-week vacation. So we had a nice chat for about 10 minutes home this morning. I would like, if we do these things in the future, to have just if it's over at 5, it would take us 10, 15 minutes, a debrief with all of us on lessons learned, things that we learned as we go around the table, how we can improve upon them. But I love some of their ideas. I shared them with Elizabeth. We talked about it the other day, party. Shared them with Jerry morning, and I'll share those notes with you guys. But it was overall, they work hard. They put out a lot of good material. They put a lot of good handouts out. And I did talk to Liz about one thing about the last week's edition of the Shelter Island Reporter, when the nice people, the 8 or 10 people put a nice ad into the support of community housing, which was very, very, very nice. And I cited a couple of questions on there where I'm not sure whether it was 100% accurate. There was at the time, but I think Elizabeth then talked to Stephen, about a couple of those comments there. So what we need to do, and I said to Elizabeth this morning, if you know of anybody that's going to do this in the future, let's love it. And we applaud it and we really appreciate it. But we have to make sure that the information that we give out is 100% accurate, because we can't accuse people of putting out false information. And then we're not putting it out, but it's in support of us. And by the way, the information that those people got was at the time 100% accurate. but then Stephen, kindly looked at that and made some recommendations on better ways of wording that, and we'll do that in the future. So I don't want to go into a long dissertation about that, but I just think that, we just want to make sure that what we put out to the public is factual. Yes.
Anything else, BJ?
No, that's it for me.
Stephen, you have anything?
Nothing, Mr. Supervisor.
Amber?
Nothing.
Everything's good on your end?
Okay.
Okay, we'll open it up to the public first. Bill, Mike. You want to come up and talk?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Albert. Okay, Albert.
Doing
How you doing?
How you doing? How was the vacation?
very nice.
Thanks.
I'm going to try to keep my remarks short, try to be as concise as possible. So I would ask for discretion, maybe a little professional courtesy for an ex-colleague, but at any rate, I'll move along. Those that I've served with know that I've been in favor of community housing and work to achieve those ends, endeavor to achieve them along with you. However, I feel the town board has put the issue of community housing in a vacuum of your own creation. The town board hired a consultant to do a needs assessment. The Community Housing Board and the Fund Advisory Board have held public workshops to get input, such as structure type, cottage or three-family house, rent or sale. Who should be most eligible for inclusion into community housing? The committee volunteers should be commended for their time and efforts in the work that they've done. However, I feel that the state legislature modified 16E in October of last year. As a result of these modifications, they've become, for me, I think, a real game changer. These modifications should warrant comprehensive study and effort by the board. What I feel needs to be done based upon the modifications, the town board should hire a consulting firm to prepare a GEIS. Is there any town that has a greater need for an environmental impact statement than Shelter Island? This would identify significant adverse environmental impacts, alternatives, and any mitigation measures that should be taken. Next, hire a consulting firm with extensive TDR experience to conduct research and prepare a TDR program that is predicated on the environmental impact study. This would lead to the designation of sending and receiving districts, well-defined sending and receiving districts, as well as the creation of a TDR bank with the requisite structure, administration, and more importantly, controls. As we know, Stephen, you can correct me, TDRs can be sold or transferred to other properties to increase density for any given project. Having these studies and obtaining an understanding of the ramifications and the controls needed are critical to ensure the protection of the island. I believe that what the town board is doing is circumventing this process that should take place. The plan that you referred to is incomplete and totally devoid of these studies that should be done, that need to be conducted. The friends groups have been vilified by this administration for expressing their questions, concerns, any misconceptions that they might have. I'm not a member of any of these groups. However, I can empathize with their frustration. There are those that are truly against any community housing program on Shelter Island. We know who they are. It's obvious who they are. But please don't lump everyone in that group. This board is frankly showing an arrogance by refusing to sit down with your constituents and engage in constructive dialogue. By moving forward on this referendum without doing the requisite work that really should be done, this could have an enormously negative impact to the island. And second, I believe there are those individuals who are in favor of community housing programs, but will vote against the referendum because the work wasn't complete. And you'll lose a tremendous source of revenue that would be so beneficial to this endeavor. The town of South Hall has made the decision to hold off on the referendum until next November.
No, they
They
didn't.
want to get it right.
Changed.
It changed it.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
Three
they
minutes.
changed. But I felt at the time, I didn't realize that they wanted to get it right.
They missed the deadline. They were, because they didn't know we had to have that.
At any rate, I implore the town board to do the same. The whole board.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, Stephen?
Yes, great news. We did retain a consultant to do the TDR program, and we did a request for proposals months ago. But we just found an expert in this area. It's P.W. Grosser Consulting. And
I'm sorry, was that?
P.W. Grosser Consultant Group.
Grosser.
Grosser. Tomato. So, and we already have a proposed timeline of some work. The resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute this consulting agreement will be on for the next town board meeting. And you're absolutely right. A DGIS is necessary and can be used for other things other than the TDR program and could be cross-pollinated. But
What's that status?
what's the status of
What
what?
status of the GIS?
Well, they have to do it. So
Grosser's doing it?
Grocers do.
And they're doing the TDR program?
Correct.
They're doing both.
No,
You have to have a GIS in order to have a TDR program.
No.
And it has to be done in coordination with the TDR program because it's the DGIS that helps establish
No,
sending and
I'm not
receiving
sure.
areas.
I understand that,
So that,
but I'm questioning.
that consultant would do both.
I'm questioning Grosser's expertise in TDR programs.
No, we got them because actually several municipalities recommended them.
Okay,
And
terrific.
they're
That's
very,
great.
it is good.
and they're very well versed in it. We were very impressed in our initial meeting with them. And what we're hoping, can't guarantee it, but what we're hoping is to have some of their input before the vote as far as proposed sending, receiving sites
That's
and things like that.
I mean, the GEIS requires public review.
Oh, no, I'm not saying they're not going to have the final GEIS.
I know.
Just some
Should you have-
information.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Shouldn't you have final report?
What do you mean? Before you disseminate it to the
Go
public?
forward with the referendum.
No, because the referendum has nothing to do with TDRs. The referendum is just
So you
a
think they're connected in
a
any way?
funding stream for community housing
I
potentially.
understand that, but don't you think an environmental, we're receiving and sending districts on Shelter Island?
We don't know. That's why we hired the consultant to figure that out.
Exactly. Don't you think you should have that information first before you go forward with the referendum?
No, we'll have the infrastructure in place. And because again, that just has to do with TDRs. And, we're going to try to get some information that they uncover in their initial review out to the public so they can take that into account for the referendum. Can't guarantee it, but that's what we're trying to do.
I just think that the board has created an artificial timeline to get this in for this November. That you really haven't done all that really should be done.
Other municipalities.
And put it off till next year. That's all.
No, it's up to the board.
It's just an opinion.
No, that's something the board could take into account, but I think we've, done everything we could in our power to get it done this year. And I think it's with the housing, with the housing,
You haven't done the environmental impact survey.
has nothing to do with the community housing. It has to
You
do
don't
with
think
the
there's any overlap
Has,
at all?
no, I said before that it could cross pollinate, But the TDR program is what the DGIS is required for, not the housing plan. No other municipality did a DGIS in connection with the housing plan. And we're using Nelson Pope and Voorhees to do the housing plan. They can do that independent of that.
Needs assessment, that's,
No, they're doing the housing.
okay. But TDRs, you're separating out TDRs, but don't you plan to glean TDRs off of CPF purchases? How many are you gonna have? How many TDRs are you gonna obtain from that preserved property? So it is definitely part of the plan. It should.
Correct.
You should have. all
Correct,
that.
but you should have the infrastructure in place to potentially have community housing and then do it pursuant to the parameters of the TDR program and the DGIS. They're gonna set a cap. This town board has said that they want community housing. They can do everything in their power to create community housing on this island. The DGIS and the TDR is gonna set a cap on the density that we could potentially have. So there's no reason to wait because they're gonna develop community housing regardless, with TDRs or without TDRs.
I think
So
there's
that's-
a lot of misconceptions.
And then the last comment, I did at the last meeting, recommend that certain groups reach out to me by email with issues that they'd like to talk to the town board about, have not received that. So they're trying, we're trying to give other venues and options besides, the letter campaign going back and forth or coming here because it's a 3-minute whatever, but no one is taking us up on setting meetings with less than a quorum of the town board, setting meetings with each individual town board member, setting meetings with myself. You can do that. You can send emails. You can, so.
All right, that's good.
Okay.
The last,
By the way, just for a point, I actually called you over the weekend, but the phone is no longer in service. I don't know. Excuse me, let me just finish. The phone number that you have listed in the shelter animal, I tried to call you. I tried to call you with the urging of trying to get in this week to have a meeting with us this week, other than the town board meeting without the 3 minutes.
you guys tell me, I'm
Okay, he'll have his opportunity to come.
Okay.
You can come up.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks, meeting. by the way.
I just want to make a comment, if I may.
Wait a minute, 1 second.
I just want to make a comment here. I just want to reiterate or iterate, sale of TDRs. No.
Right.
We are speaking of TDRs only in connection with community housing. That's it. That's all I want to say.
And plus also, TDR's county level, we want to take control of it at the town level. Right now,
That should be written down. That should be involved in the plan. BJ, that's nice to hear. That's good words, but I would want to see a plan, have written down.
Well, absolutely. No,
It's
no,
actually part of the
yes.
legislation.
So again, before we could even adopt our own TDR
We'll have to
program,
pass.
we have to go through the DGIS process and come up with the program that we're going to propose to the public to vote yes or no on. We don't even have anything to propose to yet because we need to do the work on just
That's my
TDRs.
point. That's my
No,
point.
but it's apples and oranges. It's apples and oranges.
Do it all.
No, but it's apples and oranges. The TDRs and community housing, this town board, again, I'm going to say the third time, they're going to create community housing on this island. And the question is the density. And if TDRs are allowed, it might be more density in one area of the town versus others. But again, the DGEIS might come back and say you can't have a TDR program. And if it says you can, you're still going to proceed with community housing.
Yeah.
No, yep. Just a word or two on process. I know some of you've heard me before. Process matters. It really does matter. And I think we can even see today, people of good faith can have differing opinions. And one of the ways to handle this is not to just have a couple of times where people can come up and speak for 3 minutes. It's definitely not giving a group an opportunity just to be the only ones in front of the town board, because then you're going to have posturing and hijacking. But what could be really helpful at this point is you have a number of significant, complex issues, some of which, I'm sorry, I agree a little bit more with Albert, they're interrelated. Have a larger meeting, have a facilitator so that individuals cannot hijack the meeting. and get real public discourse, not just kind of the little arguments that occasionally occur here. I think that that would serve things better. I mean, you know that I am very much for the community housing. But I also have Albert's worry that I speak to people out there and they are concerned that there's not enough information. And maybe the referendum will be defeated because of that. So public discourse is imperative. So my recommendation is, again, back to process. I'm always a process guy. Get something a little bit more than just here going. And don't have it limited just to certain groups. Have it for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Jens Sudo, Friends of Cocos Harbor. So I have a question for Attorney Healy first. So there was an RFP for NPV consultants, okay, for which the town received only one answer. And until now, I understood that the town is going to go and sign the contract for TDR and secret review with them. All of a sudden I hear another consultant. So are you going to run this through RFP again?
So there was.
It doesn't have to be, no, it's professional services. So we did it to initially to, shake the tree and see who's out there and then we decided to talk to other municipalities, see who they've used and get the experts and we found them. So
the town is not required to, when it hires.
I just said no.
Can I finish, please? Can I finish? Yeah.
He asked him a question, he answered it.
No, but I was asking follow-up question. I was interrupted in the middle. So please let me finish the question.
You asked him and he answered. So go ahead.
Not to my satisfaction. Okay, I'd like to ask a follow-up question.
I didn't say you couldn't ask a follow-up.
Yes. So the first time around, the town just did RFP because you wanted to shake the tree, but we weren't required. Now you're not required again?
Correct.
I see. Okay, the second question for the record. Okay, my phone is not that difficult to find. You can check it that it's working. And on a meeting right after our ads to which you took exceptions in Salt Island were published. Okay, at the meeting I've heard Supervisor Siller offering the meetings to set up meetings with us. The next meeting we're told no meetings, try to submit questions in writing. Well, our issues were printed in the Salt Island report, so we don't need to resubmit them. You know what the issues are. If you want to discuss them, that's great. And we're told that there is not going to be discussion. Now,
Can I answer you? Can I answer you?
No, can you please let me finish?
Okay.
Just hate being interrupted like this. Now you're saying, you tried to call me after all.
Yes.
First of all, I don't know what number you called because I have no trace. And second, I didn't expect anybody to contact me to discuss anything because in the last meeting I was told, no, there was not going to be any discussion, town meetings and so forth. That's just to set the record straight. Is that not accurate? I said.
No, we didn't say there wasn't going to be a meeting. No, that's not accurate. We said, get in touch, tell us what you'd like on the agenda. We're not going to respond to an ad at a meeting. If you have an agenda you'd like to discuss with us, send it to us.
And we were also
on the tape. We don't need to.
I know it is, watch it.
We don't need to argue about facts. Only is to
Could I address that?
Yes.
First of all, in good faith, I could try to call you. I used the number that is, I'm saying, in the phone book, but it's not in service. I did not have your private number, nor a way of getting in touch with you. I discussed this with several colleagues after the Tuesday's meeting.
Yeah.
Rather than be bogged down by the 3-minute interval, if you were to take the time, and I said this last Tuesday, I'm going to reiterate it again. It will take you 5 to 10 minutes to take your main points in that ad, put them down on a piece of paper, give us some dates and times that you're available to come into town hall. I would personally try to assemble some people here, sit down with you, a group of people to discuss that. At town work board sessions, I don't think it needs to be said here. I think more, and we've done this previous with other people, and it's worked fantastic.
That's fine, except.
It improves communication without.
Next.
And sir, you didn't like being interrupted.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that basically is what I was trying to negotiate with you. And if you want to bring in several people to accompany you, fine. But once I had a list of the 5 major concerns, or 4 or 6, whatever that number is, if I thought I needed the town attorney, I would bring the town attorney. If I thought I needed one of my colleagues from the town board, I would ask the supervisor or the town attorney, depending on what the concerns are. That's basically, and that door is still wide open. But I just don't think here at our work session that we're designed to do that. Well, I would have told you, other groups with West Neck Water and a bunch of other very controversial issues came in. We had numerous meetings with people, spent hours and hours going over specific concerns that they had, particularly West Neck Water would be a perfect example of that. And by the way, what those meetings produced was a better agreement with Suffolk County Water. It was a lot of work on not just our part, but on the people that had legitimate concerns. We took a lot of notes, we looked at them, and we communicated with, and they were very accommodating and that new agreement. So that's just one example I can give you, but there are other things that we do here that we meet. I'm available during the week to come in and sit down with you guys.
That's fine. That's fine. Like I said, I'm gonna reiterate 2 points that I made.
Okay, sure.
Our issues are printed in the newspaper.
We're not going to respond to an ad.
That's fine. If you don't want to respond, don't respond, okay? And second, I was told there will be a meeting, there will be not a meeting. And now, again, you would like to meet. So I just need to decide. I mean, I need to finally know where I.
You need to decide what you want to do. If you want to send us an agenda, set up a meeting with Councilman Colligan, that's what you need to do. The ball's in your
I
court.
would be happy to meet with you.
And what,
No, it's not. It's in your court.
and what we're trying to do is, and we're not trying to give you a hard time at all. Not trying to make you do more. Let me, he said he didn't like
You personally.
Okay. No. We're not trying to give you a hard time. We're trying to make it the most efficient way we can do it.
Yes.
So there's all these different groups with like issues that go across each other's, mandates or whatever, what they want, what they're looking for. Let's get an email from you, get emails from the other groups. Then we can try to set up meetings that address the concerns, the main concerns of each group. And the town board really does want to do that.
Yeah.
And
That's fine. I'll send you the email with 3 bullet points, our main
Thank you.
issues.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Perfect.
Follow us with procedure.
Thank you.
Yes, we will.
Thank you very much. Yep.
We'll take the input from any.
Thank you.
Pam, I see your hand is up.
Yes, hi there. I just wanted to say that I think that everyone in the community needs to know that there does exist, in fact, a final generic environmental impact statement, and you can get a copy of the document from the town clerk. It was issued in 1994 when the comprehensive plan was finished. So conversation about TDRs and maybe coming up with a new final generic environmental impact statement, this GEIS that people keep talking about. The community would be well served if they review the one that's on the books today. Just as they should review the comprehensive plan that's on the books today. And maybe everybody will have a better idea of what's happening and the changes and, the progressive nature of what getting community housing going and other things changing in the community, because it is important to find out where we're starting from. So I'm not really understanding why we're ignoring the fact that we already have this final generic environmental impact statement. So I just wanted to get that out there for everybody.
Well said. Thank you.
That's correct. Yeah, we do have an environmental impact statement, and the 94 plan does outline community housing. And then in 2008, TDRs were brought back up and their review of the comprehensive plan for updating. So this information is out and available.
Yes, I know
Jen?
that, right? But I'm not sure that everyone else did. So just in case other folks who are watching were interested in getting a copy of that, they can certainly foil from it, from the town. Take a look at what it is. And then when the new one comes along, we'll see what that is.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I'll actually see if I can have it scanned and put on the comp plan website because it's part of the 94 plan.
Great.
So it's not actually already posted. They're all posted.
Yeah,
Very good.
I was thinking the same thing was posted on the website.
Sandra?
Hi, I just wanted to comment that for some reason, for this particular meeting, we lost the Zoom audio twice, and it wasn't me. And it's been very difficult to hear some of you. Has anything been done differently for this meeting?
yeah, no, but we have relatively new microphones. Have you?
Okay, well, whatever. I just,
Yeah.
it just, I don't know, and I don't know why, and you don't know that we've lost the audio, so there were segments where we didn't hear what was being said, so, okay. I know, in fact, somebody decided to just switch over to YouTube thinking it would be better. I don't know. Anyway, that's,
Yeah, we'll check the new mics and see if something got wiggle loose or something.
okay.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a comment just on the sound.
Yep.
Ever since you started using the disc microphones rather than the directional microphones, it's very difficult to understand what the person at the podium is saying. While you're watching on Zoom, it picks it up fine for YouTube, but while you're participating on Zoom, that person's voice tends to be garbled.
Okay,
Thank you for that feedback.
yeah, thank you.
You probably need to put it.
Maybe we should put a disc on the table in case somebody's sitting with a disc there.
Okay, yeah. Anything else? Anybody? Julie?
Nothing from me, thank you, Jerry.
Okay, if nobody has anything else, what do we know? I'm going to make a motion. We go into executive session, to discuss a potential land acquisition. A second?